Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Southside Stories, the podcast where we interview leaders and founders and entrepreneurs and other interesting people doing great things in the world of business. And just a quick reminder, as always, if you haven't hit the subscribe button or the like button, please do that. Be great to have you as a subscriber. And we've got lots of interesting business interviews still to come in the next couple of months. This afternoon, we're going to talk to Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, Matt. How you doing?
Yeah, great. Thank you. And it's great to have you with us. And Jonathan is CEO, owner of Insight 6, a customer experience company. And if you're at all interested, as you should be, if you're running a business, of course, you are interested in the customer experience. And today's episode is all about that. So, Jonathan, let's start with you. Let's tell us a bit about yourself, where you're based. Maybe just to give us the elevator on your company to start with.
Yeah, so I'm based in Lewes in East Sussex is where we work from, but we've got teams all across the UK. So we've got 30 CX specialists across the UK, which we'll come to in a bit.
Yeah.
Our business basically helps businesses transform their CX through. We are the only business of its kind actually on the planet, I think, that does the whole measurement piece right through to the consultative piece, right through to the training, coaching, mentoring piece. So you get mystery shopping companies who work independently, they just do mystery shopping. You get coaches, CX coaches who do the coaching. You get training companies. We do a whole lot, sort of a one-stop shop if you know, with very experienced business people who are CX trained and qualified.
Fantastic. And we're going to unpick that a little bit. And we're also going to talk about, what are some of the common issues and things that you see amongst businesses in terms of their customer experience. How did you get into this? Tell us a bit about your career journey, your background. How did you get into this line of work?
Well, it probably goes, most people start at the age of 20. Mine probably starts a little bit earlier. When I was 12, my parents sold the family home. They wanted to send me and my brother to a private school, and I didn't have the money. So they sold the family home and they rented a little place on Bexhill-on-Sea seafront, right near the beach. And they bought an old hotel and turned it into a care home. And it was those experiences of them developing their team and their first resident into the care home, which was a lady called Miss Rowe. And it was £55 a week in sunny Bexhill for a room.
Well, you still remember the first resident?
I remember picking up her luggage and taking it into her room. Yeah, because it was a family business. Yeah. I mean, we and
it
then
would have been a big moment. Yeah.
It was a big moment. And then they actually bought this hotel at Freehouse. They did one up and got rooms open, and they did the next one up. And they were, they were very, very cautious, but actually took a massive risk to do this. But my mum was from a health background. My dad, he was 50 when he did this. So, it's quite a thing, and he worked for the civil service, and they both gave that up to run this care home, and they were good at it. And they were good at it because they really cared about their residents. They really cared about their staff. And they just worked really, really hard. And then they bought a nursing home in Hastings, and then they sold that, and then they sold the care home, and they, retired at 65 and had a great life. And my dad, bless him, is 97. He's still with us, and he still was sharp as a tack, which is
fantastic.
A bit annoying when he starts asking me about my business. But so I grew up with lunches, which were always from a care home. So the food was so good, we ate it. And the discussion was always about, the customer and the team and how we're doing. And so I grew up with those conversations around me. I don't really remember a time where it was like a normal family lunch. It was always about what was going on in the business. So, and then at the age, so I went to college, and I wasn't great. I managed to get a couple of A-levels, and I luckily got on the Harrods course. The Harrods management course when I was 18 years old. So I moved to a bed sit in Barnes and paid 55 quid a week for that honour. And I started at Harrods on £100 a week, and I did 2 years on the retail training scheme, which was brilliant, actually. I loved it.
Yeah, that was a really big thing, wasn't it? I mean, this is I guess it's before Fayed's time, is it?
He came in while I was there, sadly, yeah.
Okay, yeah. But, I mean, Harrods had such an amazing reputation. That would have been a real achievement to have got onto that management course.
Yeah, and they are still the best retailer in the world. I mean, and how does a business survive, 180 years of being at the top? And they do it because, despite the FIA bit, I mean, they did it because they really trained their people well, So
Yeah.
every week, all the staff, and at Christmas, 6,000 people had 45 minutes of training every single week. And
Uh-huh.
I go into a business now and I say to the teams, right, how much training you had this year? And they go, a couple of hours, and,
Yeah.
but every week you got that because they
Uh-huh.
opened at 9:30 on a Wednesday and we were in at 8:30. So
Uh-huh.
it was all about the training of them. And we would go and mystery shop Harvey Nichols and Selfridges and as part of our management scheme. That's how I learned about mystery shopping.
So great start there. And tell us about sort of their journey from that into
Ah.
starting your own customer experience company.
Yeah, so I moved to Australia when I was 26, and I moved to Perth in Western Australia, and I was cleaning cars and cleaning houses, and I had no quality. I didn't have a degree. I worked at Harrods, but in those days, Perth in Western Australia was pretty. It is the most isolated city in the world. There were no head
Yeah.
offices there, so getting a job was really difficult.
Mhm.
And anyway, I loved it. I was listening to cricket all day. It was brilliant. And I walked into this supermarket. It was owned by a chap called James Kelly, and he was still is an extremely good food retailer. And his supermarket was lovely, but the service wasn't great. And so I told him, I said, I just had a chat. I said, look, I've been into your supermarket. I think I can help you. And I did a mystery shop. So this was, where you go through the journey, you're measuring what that journey is like, you're putting a bit of storytell on every touch point. And then I went and showed him this report, and he said, God, I've never seen anything like this before. Can you do this twice a month? And then cut a long story short, I basically grew it to 1,000 supermarkets across Australasia, and it was just all mystery shopping. And in Aussie, they don't really ask for help. They just go, "That's good, mate. I've got the report. I'll deal with my staff," and they just deal with them one way or the other, whichever way it is. And it was really good. I loved it. And I spent time in New Zealand. I spent time in the Eastern States. And then 20 years ago, actually 20 years ago this week, I sold it and I moved back to the UK. And I had a little bit of time off. And I walked into a supermarket called Jempson's, which is in East Sussex, and famous family, lovely. And again, the same sort of happened, and we got chatting. And I got into farm shops, believe it or not. I spoke at a farm shop conference, and then I was all of a sudden, within a year, I was like working in, I don't know, 50 or 60 farm shops, helping them, and they were ringing me up saying, "I've got this report. What do I do with it?"
Mm.
As opposed to in
Yeah.
Australia where they're going, "Oh, leave it with me. And they're
Mhm.
going, "I'm a farmer, I know how to plough fields." And I started this shop up, but I've got 30 staff. I'd never done an appraisal. I've got nothing in
Mhm.
place.
Mhm.
So, and then I was rushing around doing all that. I thought there's got to be a better way of running this business.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
we need a business that's got local experts. We've got the data, but we've got local experts who can put that in place and really transform that business with really good coaching and mentoring and training and everything else. And so I franchised what was then called Shopper Anonymous.
Mhm.
Um, I started franchising it. So I started franchising about 12 years ago,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's been great. It took me 5 years to learn how to franchise something. I think it's a tricky model, but once you get it, once you can get a balance between everything, expectation and delivery, I think really, it's a good business, and that's how we grew it.
Brilliant. Okay, we're going to talk about that. I'm very interested in that franchise piece and that journey's been. We'll come on to that in a second.
Oh,
Let's just go back to Insight Six, as you're
yeah.
now called. Tell us about sort of. I think we got the gist of it, of course, but tell us about perhaps when you approach a new prospects. What's the overall proposition? What do you go there with? What's the benefit that you offer to a
Well,
new
first of
client?
all, I mean, let's just explain the market we're in. So
Mm,
70% of our market is professional sector. So
mhm,
surprisingly enough, we work with 250 law firms. And
mhm,
people say, law firms, mystery shopping, what? But
mm,
it's really crucial in that sector. We work with private schools, we work with universities, we work with
mhm,
accountants. So 70% of what we do is very, very professionally led. Now, in that sector, we go to them saying, are you missing out on opportunity or service? So we would typically do web inquiries, phone inquiries into a firm, and we see how good they are, and then we'll go and say, look, this is how good you are, or not, as the case may be, and then we would talk about the return on investment, and then they'd start engaging with us, and then we take them on a 6-step journey, which I'm sure we'll come to in a minute. But we normally start with, potential client. what is that income label on their head, and are you missing out on that opportunity? So, if we took a private school who are under all sorts of pressure at the moment, they've got to be really good at signing up new kids more than ever now. Well, if mum and dad rang up the school and said, little Tommy loves music and I'd like to bring him to your school and he's 4 and he's got 14 years with you and it's 50 grand a year, it's a big price tag. When they do the tour with little Tommy, are they going to show him the sports hall? Am I going to show him the kitchen? Or are they going to get the orchestra out and put a flute on the chair and say, come on, Tommy, go and have a play with the orchestra for 10 minutes? The ones that get it and go, right, we've got to really tailor this for this child, because actually quite often the child goes, I want to go there, are the ones that win. And so, that's kind of how we work and demonstrate the value opportunity for them, and then how we can transform that experience so they become lifelong advocates.
It's interesting, by the way, you say law there, because when I moved house last year, I called 6 or did web inquiries for 6 conveyancers. And I've learned since that actually that they are a bit kind of swamped. I think there's not enough money for the demand, but I think only 2 got back to me. And one of them one of them was a recommendation. And I called that guy 5 times, never picked up. I left 4 messages, never returned it at all. So you're absolutely right. Even companies you think would be great at this are often not.
Yeah. Well, we do a white paper every couple of years. It's called the Professional Client Journey. And we will mystery shop, or what we call CX reviews, 220 firms, non-client firms. On Net Promoter Score, understanding that Net Promoter Score goes to 100 or minus 100, no zeros in the middle, and Apple and around 60, 70. On these inquiries alone, professional firms, law was minus 41. Now, their ability to get back to the inquirer, leave a message, actually, after hours is always the topic. Get back to the inquirer, sending information, following up, because no one follows up. So doing that really, it's a really simple journey. It's not hard, not complicated, but there's a lot of personal challenge for solicitors to deliver that, because they don't like to be pushy by nature. They think it's selling, and which of course it isn't. It's just delivering a good experience, and the two are very different. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having started my own business and having to work very, very hard to secure, clients and sales, I just find it staggering that, because that's not even being pushy. That's just responding to an inbound inquiry. The amount of money that's left on the table there by some of these companies. And we might come back to that in a second.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 6-step, the six-step model. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So we're called Insight 6. It's a rebrand that I did just before COVID, and that was because I was in a law firm in Birmingham, and the CEO of the law firm said, why are you in here, and why are you called Shopper Anonymous? It didn't really work, so for what we did. And I went, man, good point. So I went away and I rebranded. And the 6-step model is 6 I's. So it starts with Inspire. So the Inspire part of the program is we sit with leaders down in a room and we say, well, what do you want to be? What do you inspire to be as far as CX is concerned? And if, to be really basic about it, if you were a car, what type of car do you think your CX is currently? And they generally say we're a 1995 Porsche. We're like, on a good day, we're great. We can shine up well. We can be really good on a good day, but we do break down. We're sometimes a bit unreliable. We're not as up to date as we need to be. But we've been here a long time, and people love our reputation. Right? So we go, okay, well, we're going to move to step 2 now, which is called identify. So we then go and we measure that. So we'll put inquiries into the firm. We might do focus groups with the team. We might do some exit surveys with clients. And we come back to the leadership team and say, well, you said you were a 1990s Porsche. You were probably a Skoda, a 1968 Skoda, And they go, well, we'll prove that. So we show them the data. We say, well, this is what we've done. This is what we measured. Only 20% of all calls we made after hours were returned. When we asked for staff, actually, we've got some challenges here. We've got to bring people with us. They need developing. So we work through that. And then that always leads to what we call the illustrate stage 3. And that's where we start looking at the journey mapping and how chunky and difficult remove the friction from the process to do business with people. Great story. We worked with this international firm. They asked us to put inquiries into all their offices around the world. And then they flew everybody into London for me to present the results. China never responded to any one of the 12 inquiries we put into their office. They got 0%. The team came in and they all looked at each other and they said, yeah, we get 0%. I said, and they looked at each other and said, who last checked the inbox on the emails? No one was checking it.
Yeah.
And this is a multi-million-pound organisation.
Yeah.
So it is sometimes as basic as that.
Yeah.
Things break, people don't check. So that's where the illustrate part comes in. And then when you illustrate, you change process. You've got to train people. So then that's the instruct. Step 4 is around instruct and actually training people. And then we go back, we start measure again, and we inform. Step 5 says, we made these changes. Let's now measure again. Let's see the difference it's making, see the difference on morale. And then the final step is improve. And that is right. Let's now really push it. But then you go back to step 1 and you go inspire. Okay, so we've been doing this for a year. What car do you think you are now? And they probably still won't say 1990 Porsche. They might say 1985 Granada or something like that. But that's good. We're making progress. So we're moving forward. And as long as it links back to the ROI and, the number of new clients or the value per client or the satisfaction, the NPS of client, fine. As long as we can measure it.
Do you ever, or they try and link improvements back to a financial measure, like revenue?
Yep. We try really hard. I mean, some organizations don't have the ability to measure that. So sometimes it's tricky. But yeah, absolutely we do. So we would definitely measure. So if you take, let's take the optical sector, okay? Independent opticians, tough challenge, 13% down on footfall over the last 2 years. Okay. But we know, because we challenge this, when we place out of hours answer phone messages to come to an appointment, and the query would be, I've just moved to the area, I've got a family of 5, I need a new optician. So the most beautiful query you could ever have for an optician. We know that only in 20% of cases do we get a call back, and right? So when we start working with that independent optician, it is about saying, well, how many inquiries are you getting? And they obviously don't know. They don't measure. They measure once they're in. They measure the conversion rate of when you have your eyes tested to buying glasses and lens values. They do all that, but they don't measure the most important bit in my mind, which is the footfall, because that's the bit that's declining. So what we would go in and we would say, okay, let's just try and measure these inquiries. How many are we getting? What's happening? Is your answer phone working? Let's just measure it and let's see how many we're bringing in. And so absolutely, yeah, we absolutely bed down on the numbers. Yeah, prove value.
Why? I mean, clearly, things like email boxes, out of hours messages, returning calls, etc. I mean, that's clearly just a small part of what you do and what you measure. But just thinking about that as an example, why do you think people are so? Not everybody would be bad at it, but why do you think a lot of people just fail on the real basics?
It's invisible. So,
right.
I'll give you another. I spoke at, this is a classic. I spoke at this jewelry conference for 64 biggest independent jewelers in the UK. They turn over £500 million. Okay. So I speak at the conference. When I speak at conference, I talk about CX, but then we've measured the room and no one knows we've measured the room. So we say, if I was to ring you at 8:00 tonight, what sort of experience would you give? Put your hand up if you think it'd be good. 80% put their hands up because they're quite pleased with themselves, these guys. 80% put their hands up. Well, 57% of them didn't even have an answer phone. So actually, if you rang at 5:05, you will get nowhere. But the stores are beautiful, aren't they? You know the types of stores. They are beautiful. They have a welcomer on the door. So what you see, they can improve. Yeah. Invisible bit, like the answer phone, and where they don't see it. So it gets lost. And I think it is about bringing those things forward to a more visible place. In fact, of all that measurement, only 8% of all the calls led to an invitation into the store. Yeah. And this is someone looking for a £40,000 Rolex watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about finding new clients. What does that look like? Who do you typically work with? What are some of the? You talked a little bit about the first steps, but when you're looking to onboard, what does that look like?
Yeah, so there are three sectors we really focus on. One is professional, which I said is 70% of what we do. Then we've got groups and chains, and their needs are very different. They often just want data. So we work with big groups, we provide them with a lot of measurement, and then they'll have an in-house team that take that data and do what they will with it. And then we've got family business, and that's so you've got the family business are full of love, full of they want everyone to love them and everything, but their processes they're not quite as structured as maybe they should be. The professional sector are very structured, but they struggle with that sort of emotional piece, about really connecting with clients and being confident about picking up the phone and talking to people. So there are three different sectors, and we gain work by having our local experts. So we've got CX specialists, 31 of them in different counties, and they would network and get out and meet people and get referrals and speak at conferences. And that's how we grow our business, actually. We grow our business, a lot of referral, a lot of networking. And if you think about it, if you work with say a law firm, well, law firms have clients, so if we put on a CX event for that law firm, then we're introduced to a load of good clients. So, and then from a head office point of view, I speak at international conferences. So we measure the audience, of course, which is obviously leads to a number of very good conversations, but isn't a very exciting piece when we come to present it, because the oxygen goes out of the room when you said, "Oh, we measured you all," and I go,
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you can hear a pin drop at that point when you say we've actually measured you
"Yeah."
here in the
You
audience.
see,
Yeah.
the body language is a heads, it's this, it's wiggle, it's move, yeah, it's all that.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a few more questions about the staff and how you find your CX experts when we talk about the future of the business. Let's just go wide again, though, for a minute. How would you say we are doing in the UK in terms of customer experience? Are you generally seeing the trend getting better or not?
Yeah. So I think if you ask a person on the street, they'd probably say, "Oh, we're terrible, and, we're getting worse."
Mm,
I
mhm,
don't think we are, actually.
mhm,
I actually think business leaders that get it are really powering ahead. If someone gets
mm,
CX, they are
mhm,
powering ahead and they're making a big difference. And quite often that's a generational thing. If you've got if you've got a business that's had three different generations, and the 65-year-old, 70-year-old's now retiring, and the 40-year-old child is coming in, they get it because they've lived with that. They know what fast looks like. They know what good looks like.
yeah.
So they power on. So I think it's an impossible question to answer, and I can't stand here and go, "Oh, we're 10% better than we were," but I generally feel we are better. However, the expectation is getting higher. So
Mhm,
the gap between us getting better and the expectation is getting
mhm,
wider. And so when we go into maybe a chain and it's not particularly good, we really, really notice that. And when it's really good, yeah, we notice it, but we probably don't pat it on the back as much as we should, as maybe once we did.
yeah.
Our expectation is, well, that should be the standard anyway. Um, so I just
Mm,
think there's a wider gap between what we expect and what is being delivered. But I wouldn't say I don't feel we're going backwards. No. I think people also will complain more. People will say how they feel more. So it gets resolved a bit quicker as well.
Yeah, there is that stat in there that you guys, I can't remember the exact numbers, but you tell 8 people about a bad experience, only one person about a good experience. So
Yeah.
we like to complain a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're right. I think you're totally right about the raise in expectations, particularly when you've got the amazing distribution delivery experience of people like Apple or Amazon, of course.
Amazing.
And I won't mention their name, but as you were talking, I was thinking about this, that there's a very well-known, very upscale brand in Tottenham Court Road. It's been a long established business. You go into the store, it is fantastic. The people on the shop floor are great as well. And it's got beautiful furniture. And when you end up ordering online, it just all falls apart. There's no communication. The delivery time is ridiculously slow. They bundle orders together. So the product with the longest lead time just slows up the entire delivery. It's just, chalk and cheese with Amazon. It's to the extent where it's like, are we going to buy from this store again? Probably, maybe not.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I think again that's down to the leader, isn't it? It's down to the leader. I mean, yeah. I mean, generally, people that use tech really well are generally companies run by younger people. And that's
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe that's a very ageist statement. I don't know, but I think it's true.
Yeah.
If you look at brewers, you know, like the
Mm.
independent brewery chains now who
Mm-hmm.
are on
Mm-hmm.
the industrial parks and they're delivering, they do an unbelievable job at the
Mm.
logistics. And that's
Mm-hmm.
because look at the owners are in their 30s. They get it. It's normal
Mm-hmm.
to them, you know. But try and
Mm-hmm.
get someone, you know, I'm approaching 60. Try and get me trying to think like that, that's a real challenge, you know. But because that could be my business, I don't want anybody else to be involved. Only I can find the solution, and you know, so it holds
Yeah.
the progress back. So you're absolutely right in what you say. Yeah, yeah.
What do you think? I mean, the last detailed question on this, which is, IVRs, the automated, telephone handling response, where you've got to go through the menu system. That is the biggest thing that everybody seems to complain about. And if you are the age of my mother, 90, forget it. She finds it so frustrating, as does everybody, I think. And yet we're still, all these years later, it's still there.
Mm.
Why do you think that's still like that?
Saving money, I think it's just about saving
Yeah.
costs and a lot less people. But it is, I think it's kind of worse now, actually, in some respects,
Mm,
because
mm.
how does someone in their 80s actually find a phone number?
Yeah.
They don't pick
It's
up the
always,
yellow. They don't pick up the yellow
no.
pages anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they do actually manage to go www and find a website, and you know, my father can do that. He's 97. But how does he find the phone number on that website? Because many of the large organisations don't have phone numbers.
Yeah. That's
So when a
true.
chat comes out, bot chat, pops out. Well, how are they going to use that?
Yeah.
So what do? They don't do it.
Yeah.
So they become isolated, and there's nothing. So I hope I hope AI will help with some of these things. So they ring a number and they purely just say your mother thinks she's talking to somebody.
Mm,
That's okay, isn't she? If she
mm-hmm,
thinks she's talking to someone, that's okay,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And they pick her accent and they mirrorize her accent and they're
mm-hmm,
able to identify that she's in her 80s and her likes and dislikes. And they really tailor that conversation around that, what then the persona of the 80-year-old. Well,
mm.
that could be wonderful, couldn't it?
It
I
would.
mean,
Yeah.
that could solve it. And the companies that do that will be the ones who
Yeah.
will pitch in. The ones that, you go around in houses trying to get something
Yeah.
solved.
Yeah. Funny enough, I saw a Vodafone ad last night caught my attention, and it was the proposition was, I think it was an online experience for chat, but I think it was with a real agent on the other end. And the promise in the ad was this named person will be the only person you need to deal with, and they will stay with you until they have resolved your issue, which I thought was great. I mean, to the extent where, when it comes around to renew again, I'll probably remember that. It's a customer experience can be a great differentiator in the world of banking and
Yeah, yeah.
mobile. And
And with
yeah,
AI, when you ring and it recognizes your number, they know if it's an AI agent, because you probably don't know if it is or not. They can be so good.
yeah,
Um, it knows it's you and it knows it dealt with Reg before, you dealt with Reg before, and this is a rapport you had, and it bing, 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 and it's
yeah,
back in. Yeah. And that could be fantastic.
yeah. What do you, I mean, from all of the things you observe right now, what would you say the top three customer experience issues that you see? We might
Um,
have covered a few of them already, but
Speed, I think. I think one is around speed. I
yeah.
think, Amazon's fastest food delivery in London. Guess what it was?
Under an hour?
6 minutes.
Incredible.
Unbelievable. And it wasn't
Yeah.
a carrot. Like, how do you do that? So
Yeah.
that's where the expectation is going.
Yeah.
The person that says, "Oh yeah, I'll order that product for you. It'll be in 2 weeks' time." Not a chance.
Yeah.
So I think speed is number one.
Yeah.
I think team, probably around getting the right people, getting your
Mm-hmm.
people aligned to your customers' values. And,
Mm-hmm.
a good scenario is someone's ringing a law firm. They've just had, their mother's just passed away, and they're ringing the law firm about the will and all that. That person's in an emotional state. They're looking for some compassion. They're looking for some empathy, a bit of time, maybe. They ring the firm. The person on reception is answering all these calls. Her bosses or his bosses saying, "You've got to get through these calls." His need is, "I've got to get through these calls. I've got no time for compassion or empathy." So that is a huge challenge. And I think, again, firms that can work that properly and understand, oh, hang on a minute, this is what's happened. I need to display more empathy and give it a bit more time, as opposed to someone who just wants to go through. And I think understanding that is really important. And I think thirdly is embracing technology, but I call it embrace technology, but wrap it with love,
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. I was reading up about Starbucks, actually. So Starbucks, they've all the coffee chains, most of them have gone down order your own food. I find it amazing. You go to McDonald's, soon you'll be cooking your own food, won't you? You go and you order it yourself. They bring it, you've got to go and collect it yourself. Yeah. And then then you have to put everything in the bin and you walk, it's like,
Yeah.
I might as well cook the damn thing, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And, but Starbucks actually are reeling that back. They're going to take out some of the automation and actually put people back in. So I think people that recognise that would actually win. I think the human contact will be more powerful than ever. I think people are a bit scared of AI and all that. I think it leads to a
Yes, I think
really
you're
good
right.
opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that. If you were a business listening to this, what would and you think, oh, God, maybe we're not so good at this. What would your advice be to somebody that's listening as a first step to improve their customer experience? I guess the first one might be to call Insight 6, but
But
which would
I wouldn't actually
no?
say that.
Okay.
I would say when you're at home tonight, ring up your business.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Ring it up. If you've got a direct line to a team member in your business, ring up the direct line. See what happens. Where's it go? Does it go anywhere? Is there any message?
Yeah.
Is the message enthusiastic? Is there a promise to call back?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, you know what? Pretend you're someone else, leave a message and see if you get a call back. So I would actually test my own business. I'd chuck a few emails into my own business and see what happens. I do that all the time in ours. We've got loads of entry points on our websites and social. I'm always doing it to see if people are responding, if they respond. You've got to do it, and I would just start with that. And then I would think about who's my competitor. Well, let's just ring them up at 8 o'clock at night and see what happens. And if they're sort of beating you up at the moment, you might find the answer,
Yeah.
as to why they're beating you up.
Yeah. Good advice. Let's turn to your business then. You talked a little bit about where you want to take it. So you've got 31 CX experts, I think I heard.
Yeah, so we are
country.
a franchise, but the word franchise is a loose word. It's a partnership between our CX experts. They basically own a county in the UK, and they deliver our services to that market within their county. And they're highly trained in customer experience. Many of them are CXPA qualified, which is the world's recognized standard. And we've got, I would hope, the best mystery shopping system in the world, one of the best online feedback tools in the world. And they can use that to generate the data to then go in and transform a business. Does that explain it?
It does. Yeah. I'm curious about the franchise piece or partnership model.
Yeah.
Because you could have gone a couple of different ways on this. Why that route?
Well, it's interesting. When I was in Australia, I had quite a big central team, actually. I just spent all my time sorting the team out, not doing what I love doing. And what I love doing is getting out and doing things like this and talking. I found it so demoralizing, actually. So when I came back to the UK, as I said earlier, I took a little bit of time out, and I thought, well, I've got a bit of paper, drew a line down the middle. I said, what are the thing I would do again? What wouldn't I do again? And the thing I would not do again was have a large centralized team. So the franchise model lends itself very, very nicely to that. And if you select the right people, which is what it's all about, if you can get great people, and I believe we have got 31 great people, it's a dream. But you've got to be really careful who you select, and you've got to make sure that their brand values and their values align. Um, but over time, I've made mistakes. Of course, I have loads of mistakes. But I think at the moment we're in a good place. We've got it right. So, and of course, then that allows me. I've got an operations director. I've got a business development manager. I've got a marketing agency outsourced to help us with our marketing. I've got finance firm that helps with finance. We've got a very tight centre, which means we are very quick at responding. And that works for us because that, on the ground level, the franchisees respond. That's great. We respond to their needs. We're constantly asking them to have a fee every month. They're giving us feedback on morale and how we're doing, and we learn from that. We're constantly changing things. We're constantly improving things. And then alongside that, we've got much more bigger strategic plans around the tech. Because the tech is such a massive part of CX now. It's just keeping up is such a challenge. So. It's kind of a tech business now. It's a half a tech business, half a people business, whereby when I started off, it was all people.
If I am listening and I'm thinking, you know what, I could see myself doing this.
Yeah.
What kind of people are you looking for? What kind of background? What's the process if I wanted to become a
All right.
franchisee?
So if I do a stereotypical sort of person that joins us, let me try and sum that up. So generally, we would have someone between the age of 38 to 50 who's been in a role within an organisation, enjoyed it, but just want to do something for themselves, fed up with being
Yeah.
in hotels, want to spend more time with their family, want to improve the environment they're in, like the region they're in, the area, make a difference. Know they know that they haven't reached their peak or their potential, and they know that they can do much more and much better and be more satisfied with their life. And have loved leading teams. They love the CX bit. They're really into looking at that. They are the people we talk to. I mean, it's really about getting to know them and very gently learning about them and building a relationship, and then seeing if they are practically able to do it, because obviously a financial implication to come on board.
Yeah.
And then we really work with them. So we're never going to have more than 40 in the UK and Ireland.
Uh-huh.
And when we started off, the consultants all said, "Oh, you could have 100," and I said, "No, you can't, because you can't love 100. You can love 40, just about love 40. There's probably a limit." But we're also very lucky that our team do a lot of stuff together. So the regions get together and meet, and they'll have a little away day, and as well as us running 2 conferences a year and pulling everyone together that way. So I think, I like to think we're doing it okay.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. And I guess I don't need the. Do I need the qualifications, or do you provide training once I've been
No, you don't.
accepted? Yeah,
No. It's about, we want the person. We want the
yeah,
emotional intelligence is the most important thing. Someone who
yeah,
can empathise, and that's the bit. If you haven't got that, you're in a bit of trouble. That's the
yeah.
bit. And then we can put them through the qualifications. We can do the training. That's what we do. We through extensive training and mirroring and shadowing and all those types of things. And we're just about to launch London, actually. So we haven't got anyone in London yet, and we're just about to launch 7 areas in London, which is good, because London's a very different beast to the rest of the UK.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this. So, why do you think that is?
I
Because, of
don't
course,
know.
there's no shortage of businesses in London that needs CX help.
It is weird. When I first started franchising, I thought the first area that would go would be London, because I thought there'd be a couple in their 40s, 50s. They've got a lot of equity in their home. There wasn't a huge entry point. It's not a huge entry point. A lot of equity in their home. They desperately want to do something for themselves. One of them could leave their job and do this, build it up. The other one could jump on board. We just don't get any inquiries from London. So we're clearly doing something wrong. We've got to look in the mirror and go, well, why aren't we? The rest of the UK is all done. It's nearly all done. We've only got a couple of areas actually empty outside of London, which we look after. So it's a great conundrum. And but then I speak to a lot of business people. They say they have a development plan for UK, they have a development plan for London. They're different beasts. And I need to, it's my responsibility to crack that and sort that out and work out why. But yeah, loads of business in London. The density of business is huge. If someone took it on, they'd have a fantastic time and make a lot of money, I think. Yeah.
There you go. So if you're listening to that and that sounds interesting, we'll put the links to the website on the podcast description. So away from the UK, you're also looking at overseas markets, Europe, maybe,
Yeah,
or
we're
yeah,
starting to look at English speaking areas. Yeah.
yeah,
So obviously Australasia is very appealing because I know it quite well, and we have some contacts down there. The sort of Dubai space is very exciting. That potentially could be something. So yeah, we've got a little bit more work to do here, I'd say, but I think 2026 we'll be reaching out overseas. We do get approached by people who want to buy a master franchise. But I just feel we need to just do a little bit more here. Um,
yeah,
Not get distracted. You know what it's like. You know.
yeah, yeah, I do. Great. Let's move to kind of wrapping up. So you've had this amazing. It's actually interesting, isn't it? Because you sort of you hit on this area from quite an early age. So I think all the way back to sort of actually even the care home, I
10.
guess. And then
I,
yeah,
I think I was about 10 actually when I really
yeah,
thought about being
it,
kind to people, and
yeah, it's incredible. It's
because
really good.
that's
And
what it's about, isn't it? Really.
yeah, it is, it is. And then you've had this long period of time doing this. How do you think your leadership style has changed? You know, if you look back at the younger Jonathan,
Yeah.
maybe when you started even the UK sort of business, how have you changed as a leader?
That's a great question. I think I'm tougher. I think I've learned that I think when you have 30 partners, um, if one partner's letting down the other 29, if you're not tough on that one, you are letting down 29. So in the early days, I was probably a bit too nice with people. It doesn't mean I'm not a nice person now. Hopefully, I'm still a nice person, and I'm consultative, and I'll always be empathetic and try and help and go the extra mile. But if people step over the line, then it needs to be dealt with, and but definitely I'm tougher in that respect. And I think actually I have far more tougher discussions with my partners because actually that helps them as well. So I think being kind sometimes doesn't help anybody, but actually giving someone a good kick up the backside, it doesn't do anyone any harm. I had one last week. I said, how many hours a week are you working? And he said, oh, probably about 30. I said, well, can you just tell me why you're not working 40? Because at the moment, no one works Fridays, do they? Have you noticed that? No one's around on Fridays. And since COVID, no one works Fridays. And I said, fine, you don't have to work Fridays, but just make it up on the other days, because if you want to get from here to here, which you've told me you want to get to, you're not going to do it doing 30 hours. You've got to be doing the extra. So I think from that point of view, I'm better. I think from a managerial point of view and managing my numbers and being on the numbers and understand the implication of a decision now in a year's time, I'm much better. Um, I've got a very good accountant who's really good. We talk every week, and I know exactly what's going on with numbers. I mean, in Australia, God knows, I don't know how I did it. Really, it's all back of a fag packet, and if I'd focus, my wish, if I had been 25, if I say to every 25-year-old who say to me, "What should I do?" Go and do an account course.
Mm.
Even if you're, I mean, I think I'm a touch numerically dyslexic. I'm not good with numbers. I get them all mixed up, but just go and do. I wish I'd done it.
Yeah,
I
I
really
think
wish I'd
that's
done
really good advice. And it's amazing actually how many business owners I talk to, they're kind of a little scared of the numbers.
it.
Or they don't understand them, or the P&L. I mean, you're very immersed with your account on the numbers, but a
Mm.
lot of people are like, oh yeah, the P&L, there's something my accountant sends me.
Yeah, I
And
look at it once a year, and cash flow.
yeah,
I get asked sometimes to go in and talk to people in my. I say, tell me about your cash flow. They don't know where to start.
no,
Oh, in my
yeah,
bank, I've got 80,000 in the bank. Yeah, what about your cash flow?
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
interesting, isn't it? So
it
that
is.
would be one thing. So I think they're the things really, and I think probably having a much better balance in life. I work hard, but I don't work weekends and I don't work after 6. And when I'm on holiday, in any of my team pick up the phone or do an email on holiday, they're in real trouble, as am I. When you're on holiday, you're on holiday, and that's the end of it. And so I'm much better at that. Yeah.
Great. And tell us about, it's a question we ask everybody. Tell us about somebody that's been a great inspiration to you in your professional career. And, just to give you a bit of thinking time if you need, I mean, we've had early leaders, managers that have been great. We've had Elon Musk, we've had Churchill, we've had
Yeah,
Julius Caesar last week, all
yeah.
sorts of people.
Well, I'd probably say my mum and dad really, but
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah,
putting them to one side. But yeah. I mean, I'm a great Churchillian, so I read all about Churchill
mm,
always. So I would definitely say was the greatest leader that ever walked the planet. It would be Churchill.
mm,
But you know what? It's probably one of my teachers
mhm,
actually. Who I was really struggling at school, and I sat down by my housemaster. My parents had paid all this money for me to go to this school. They'd sold the family home. They'd done everything to get me there. And I was told by the housemaster, you're not going to get to Polytechnic, and you're not, because you're predicted 3 U's at A level. And, it's this one teacher called Nigel, and Nigel Wheeler. And he sat me down and said, right, okay, we can get through this. And my dad found me the application for Harrods, and I applied. And I went for the interview, 24 places for 5,000 applicants, and I got my best Jeeves and Hawkes suit on, and I got it. I got in, but I needed 2 A levels, and it was Nigel Wheeler who sat me down and said, "Right, this is how you're going to pass 2 A levels. You're going to forget about the third one, politics. You're going to focus on English and history, and you're going to learn every single quote. And on every essay, you're going to put every quote into every single essay, and you will get to it if you do that." And I remember on June the 24th in 1985, going to the board, because in those days, of course, nothing online. You go into this great big sheet of paper and it says, Jay Winchester, I'm looking along. And the first one
yeah.
said, politics, U. And I thought, oh, I'm done. English, E. History, E. I got 2 A levels. So I would say that. And it was interesting. I was speaking at a
Mm,
conference weeks ago in Cardiff to a big group, an employee-owned group, actually. And they were talking, they may take unemployed people back into the workforce. So they deal with a lot of, really, really challenge children and make them
mm,
get them into work. It's an incredible organisation. And they were asking me to talk about that. And I talked about
mm,
the Nigel experience, the fact that he gave me one-to-one time.
mhm.
There were loads of really clever people at this school. He could easily have been slightly elitist, but he didn't. He gave me one-to-one time. He always asked me how I felt. He always said, how you feeling? How you getting? Really. He always sat the same desk, same side of the desk as me. He never did it, clever and brilliant. And he now is actually one of my best friends. He's
That is
72.
fantastic story. Thank you for
He's a
sharing that.
great,
That's brilliant.
he's a great man, yeah. And he'll be, yeah. I have told him, but probably not as much as I should.
Well, I was going to ask you, well, good on you for telling him, because actually, normally when I ask somebody to respond and they say, oh, such and such a person, I said, have you told them? And invariably, the guys have not told that person. The women normally have, but
I tell
yeah,
you what, I tell you what I did do. I saw him. I see him. He's great. I see him, several times a year. A few years ago, I found my last report card from Eastbourne College, which is where I went to college, and he was my sort of form tutor. So he would, and your last one, you've left, haven't you? So they tend to be a bit
mm.
more honest about things. And it sort of went, poor Jonathan. He tries so hard. And I got him to read it out to me, and it went on, but it was great, and it was down to him that I'm here today. I think, yeah.
Great story. I love that, and a really good one to finish up on. Jonathan, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, Matt. Nice to speak to you.
You too, yeah. Best of luck with the business. Good luck with getting London conquered with the model, and look forward to hearing how that goes. Thank you for your
Thank you very
time.
much.
Thanks
Thanks,
a lot.
Matt.